And now it's an awkward silence and you regret even starting this conversation in the first place. Well, hello! Today I'm gonna try to make small talk a little bit less painful for you. I hope that till the end of this video you will feel more confident and more well equipped. Let's go! First, small talks are a part of life, especially in a business context, but it's hella hard for so many people. Trust me, I work in IT where I think the concentration of people who are terrified by small talk is like phew. And it included myself at some point. I will explain to you why small talk is hard. And if you will take a single thing from this video, I want it to be this. I want you to understand why small talk is hard for you personally. Because if you will understand why small talk is hard specifically for you, you will be able to find what helps you better. And that's the whole point. But of course, I won't let you go without practical tips as well. And as a bonus, I will share one worst small talk advice that I have ever heard in my life. Now, do we even need a small talk? Do we need these meaningless, uncomfortable conversations with strangers? Well, to put it simply, we use small talk to create connections with other people. And we do it by performing the act of engagement. Of course, not every social interaction will turn into a good connection. But honestly, I don't view small talk as a jibber-jabber exchange. I view it as a chance to get to know a person. Because we should start from something. We live in a huge society surrounded by so many people that it's getting hard for us to create connections. So small talk is a way to create connections. Now, why is it hard? People usually say, oh, it's hard for me to do small talk because I'm a shy person. Although it's not incorrect as a statement, it's actually quite generic. And when we say that, we usually have a deeper reasons behind that, and they're different for different people. So if someone is telling me, oh, I'm shy or small talk feels awkward, I usually ask, why do you think it feels awkward? And the answer to that question usually reveals a deeper reason. Reason number one, you may say small talk feels superficial. And I would agree, yes, sometimes the nature of the small talk feels superficial and it makes us feel uncomfortable. And it feels superficial because small talk doesn't serve information exchange purposes. And a lot of us are used to interact with other people for information exchange purposes. That's why small talk just doesn't feel right. So it's alright if you feel this way. It can also feel superficial if you're not actually interested in other person. Being an empathetic listener helps a lot with this feeling of awkwardness or if you feel uncomfortable during small talk. We all feel when we're heard by others and we all like this feeling. We like when we are heard. So let's try to do this with others as well. Also, we just need to accept that yes, the beginning of the conversation sometimes can be generic. It's alright, it's just the way it is. Another deeper reason why we can be uncomfortable with small talk is this. If I would say something wrong, I'm afraid that this person would think bad about me, which basically means that we expect the judgment from the other person. You don't know what to ask because you're afraid that you may ask something wrong and you will look stupid. And it creates an emotional pressure on you. Because you don't expect the acceptance from the person you're having a small talk with. You expect the judgment. And because you expect the judgment, it doesn't actually matter what you say. You will be terrified either way. I can fully relate to that feeling myself. It happens sometimes, especially if we grew in the environment of general judgment. And if when we were younger, we were rather surrounded by judgment, not by the kind of atmosphere of acceptance, it imprints at us. When we meet a person that we don't know, by default we expect judgment. So it's not the other person who is making a small talk awkward or uncomfortable, it's us. It's only our expectations from it. And finally, the third reason is people say, when I have a small talk, it's kind of hard to keep it going. It's awkward because you asked, they answered, and you're not even sure where to go from here. And now it's an awkward silence and you regret even starting this conversation in the first place. And here you would actually need just practical tips that will help you go through these conversations smoother and easier. By the way, did you know that they released the song 20 years ago? The easiest way to feel old. Now, it's a practical tips time, and the first tip, and I know you will hate me for this now, but you will thank me for this later. But you have to actually practice it. You have to actually do a small talk. If you will totally avoid all the situations where you can potentially meet people that you don't know and talk to them, guess what? You won't train it. I don't know if you saw a Big Bang Theory. I remember there was an episode where Sheldon, he learned how to swim on the floor, and he assumed that because the skills are transferable, you can swim in the water with the skill. No, it doesn't work like that, especially in such a soft area as small talk is. But what I would not recommend you to do is to jump into a volcano straight away. So don't go to your manager's manager to exercise a small talk. So start with the forgiving environment, with social situations where the stakes are lower. Be present, engage in a conversation. This means actually put your phone away, don't kind of look at your phone when you're talking to someone. Make eye contact, be active listener. There are enormous amount of techniques that you can use for that. Mirroring technique, last three words technique, a lot. But I don't think you will actually remember all this when you're having the conversation. I would say try to be present, focus your attention on what's happening here and there, and this would already help you a lot. Another one is open-ended questions, basically questions that you cannot answer with binary yes or no. They're actually quite good in engaging the other person in a conversation. This is a simple one, basic one, but it's still impactful. Also, I saw a lot of the tips that were around the idea that conversation is a two-way street, and you should not just ask, you also should share something about yourself. And although it's for sure true in theory, in my experience, it may be relatively hard to do, especially if you feel that uncomfortable chatting with the people you don't know. You just kind of don't feel comfortable sharing a lot about yourself. So here I would say, if you feel comfortable enough, for sure do that. If no, it's possible to have a small talk even without talking a lot about yourself. And also the point of a small talk is to be light. So try to be casual, try to be friendly. Don't go hardcore on heavy topics. And I think the most important one is be actually interested. Show your interest in what the other person can tell you. Ask questions, make thoughtful comments. And I understand that sometimes it's easier said than done. And I myself have been in many situations where I couldn't say that I was necessarily super interested in people I had a small talk with. But here's the thing, it's not an objective measure. It's how we decide to approach other people. It's a mindset. If you think that you're the smartest, the most interesting and fascinating person in every room, there is a chance that you won't be interested in talking to anyone, because why would you? But if you shift your mindset to a genuine curiosity, who is this person? What is interesting about him or her? And this mindset shift actually makes a small talk much easier, because you're switching from this terrified, tensed mode to a more curious and open and genuine. And these conversations are not that painful anymore. And on the other hand, it actually allows you to get to know other people, because you never know, maybe it can be a good, warm and meaningful connection for you. I have heard a lot of small talk advices, especially in the business settings, because come on, 10-15 years ago, I wasn't really good at that either. So I was also learning. But I remember one particular small talk related advice, and in my humble opinion, it's like top anti-tip for small talk. It said that in a business setting, you should be the first to say hello to people who are higher than you in the company ranking. So you should be the first who is greeting your boss, and it should never be the other way around. Honestly, it made me physically sick. You do you, but for me personally, this is an unacceptable approach. It does not correspond to my values at all, because business schmizness, we're still people. And you may say, oh, you work in the Netherlands, in Europe, where the organizational structure is relatively flat, so you can afford kind of ditch these rules of small talk. I used to work in Russia for many years, where organization is usually quite hierarchical, so there are a lot, multiple of managerial levels. And the power dynamic in the working setting is much more intense. And guess what? I was still convinced that this is wrong and this is ridiculous. So I suggest you stay away from this, in my opinion, BS kind of advices that sometimes are sold as an working environment etiquette. No, it's not. That's just no. Finally, if you used all these tips, you did your best and for some reason it didn't work, it still felt awkward, the conversation didn't go well, the person did not react friendly, there is always a chance that you've been talking to a person who was uncomfortable at this moment for some reason, or maybe this person is just a jerk. You never know, just please make sure that it's not you.